The road was silent except for the sound of boots on frozen ground. It was March 1945, just days before the end of the war in Europe, and somewhere near the town of Hammelburg in Germany, American armored vehicles rolled slowly through the countryside. Smoke still drifted from shelled farmhouses.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
The air smelled like wet earth, burned metal, and something else no one wanted to name. Then a message reached headquarters. A German general had been captured. Not just any officer, but a senior commander with influence, experience, and knowledge of the German defense. Under normal circumstances, he would have been sent straight to interrogation. But what happened next surprised even the men who had seen everything this war could show. General George S. Patton did not treat him like a prisoner. He protected him. The decision spread quietly through the ranks at first. Officers whispered. Intelligence teams questioned the order. Why would one of the most aggressive American generals, a man known for relentless attacks and zero patience for the enemy, suddenly shield a captured German general from harm, from public humiliation, even from certain interrogations? The answer did not come in one moment. It unfolded through personality, battlefield respect, and the strange, complex rules of war that only soldiers truly understood. To understand this moment, you have to go back years before that capture. Before the front lines collapsed and Germany's defeat became certain. You have to understand George S. Patton himself. Patton was not just a commander, he was a student of war, obsessed with military history, cavalry tactics, and the idea that war followed certain codes. He believed in discipline, honor, and the professional soldier's role. Even when facing a brutal enemy, he separated ideology from the men who fought in uniform. In his mind, a soldier could be an opponent and still deserve respect. By early 1945, Patton's Third Army had pushed deep into Germany. Cities fell quickly. Bridges were seized before demolition teams could act. German resistance was breaking, but it was not gone. Experienced German commanders were still directing defensive operations, especially in regions like Bavaria and central Germany. One of them was General Lieutenant Ernst Günther Bade, a tough and experienced officer known for his leadership on multiple fronts. Another high-ranking officer captured during these final operations was General Friedrich von Mellenthin, a respected staff officer and strategist. These were not ordinary prisoners. They carried years of operational knowledge, battlefield decisions, and personal responsibility for thousands of men. When American forces captured such officers, the usual process was clear: immediate questioning, intelligence extraction, and secure transport. But Patton's response often broke that pattern. He insisted that captured senior officers be treated according to their rank and status. He did not see them as criminals in that moment. He saw them as defeated professionals. One incident stood out more than the others. In April 1945, during operations near Regensburg and the Danube River, American forces captured a German general who had been coordinating defensive lines in southern Germany. Reports reached Patton's headquarters quickly. Some officers suggested harsh interrogation. Others recommended public exposure to break remaining German morale. Patton rejected both ideas. Instead, he ordered that the general be given proper quarters, food, and protection from mistreatment. This was not kindness for its own sake. Patton understood something most civilians did not. Wars end, but armies remain. Soldiers who survive carry the memory of how they were treated. The way the United States handled defeated German officers would shape future stability, intelligence cooperation, and even post-war reconstruction. There was also a deeper layer. Patton believed in the idea of the warrior. He respected men who fought hard, who commanded under pressure, who stood with their troops even when defeat was obvious. To him, a professional soldier was different from political leaders or ideologues. Many German generals, in his view, had simply served their country as officers, not as architects of policy. You can almost feel the tension in those captured moments. The war was not fully over. Gunfire still echoed in nearby towns. Civilians were fleeing. German units were surrendering in groups, sometimes confused, sometimes relieved. And in the middle of this chaos, a captured general was escorted not to a harsh holding area, but to a guarded command building. American soldiers watched closely. Some were confused. Others were angry. They had lost friends, brothers, entire platoons to German resistance. Seeing a German general treated with dignity felt wrong to some of them. But Patton held firm. Discipline did not stop at the battlefield. It continued into victory. On April 15, 1945, Patton visited a temporary command location near Aschaffenburg. Reports had arrived about multiple German officers surrendering. Among them were high-ranking leaders who had coordinated regional defenses. During discussions with his staff, Patton made his position clear. The war would end soon. The United States needed information, stability, and order. Mistreating senior officers would achieve none of that. There was another reason behind his decision: intelligence. German generals held detailed knowledge about troop movements, defensive planning, and communication networks. If treated harshly, they might resist cooperation. If treated as professionals, they might speak openly. Patton knew this. Respect could unlock information faster than threats. One captured German general later recalled the moment he realized he would not be executed or humiliated. American officers spoke to him calmly. Guards maintained distance but remained alert. He was offered food, water, and a place to sit. It felt surreal. The war had been brutal, cities destroyed, civilians displaced. Yet here, in defeat, there was structure and control. Patton's philosophy was shaped by history. He studied ancient battles, Napoleonic campaigns, and World War I. He believed that armies fought hardest when they respected themselves and their enemy. Without that respect, discipline collapsed. And discipline, to Patton, was everything. The American army was also sending a message. The conflict was with the German military machine, not every individual soldier. The goal was not revenge, it was victory and stability. In the days that followed, Patton personally reviewed reports on captured officers. He insisted that they be processed properly under the Geneva Conventions. He checked on their treatment. He even asked for updates about their health and behavior. Some saw this as unnecessary, others saw it as leadership. The captured German general at the center of this story became a symbol of that decision. He was protected not because of sympathy, but because of policy and principle. Patton wanted the war to end with order, not chaos. There were risks. Some American soldiers questioned the decision openly. Others feared the general might escape or pass information to hidden German units. Security was tightened. Guards were doubled. Movement was restricted. Meanwhile, German resistance continued in scattered pockets. On April 25, 1945, fighting still erupted near the Austrian border. SS units refused to surrender. Local commanders tried to regroup. The war had not fully ended. During this time, the protected German general was questioned multiple times, not harshly, not aggressively. Conversations focused on troop positions, command breakdowns, and communication failures. Slowly, information emerged. Defensive networks were weaker than expected. Supplies were gone. Morale was collapsing. Patton understood what this meant. The faster the war ended, the fewer lives would be lost on both sides. Respect toward a captured general could shorten the conflict by encouraging cooperation. There was also personal belief behind it. Patton saw himself as part of a long line of warriors. He believed that soldiers who fought bravely, regardless of uniform, deserved acknowledgement. He did not admire the cause they served. He admired the discipline they showed. You can almost imagine the moment he met the captured officer. Two men in uniform, one victorious, one defeated, standing in a quiet room filled with maps and radio equipment. Outside, engines hummed. Inside, the war felt strangely distant. Patton did not shake hands lightly, but he spoke directly. He asked about positions, about command structures, about how German forces were holding together. The conversation was professional, not friendly, but it carried mutual understanding. The German general later admitted he expected execution. Many officers believed capture meant humiliation or worse. Patton's decision changed that expectation. As May 1945 approached, Germany's surrender became inevitable. Major cities had fallen. Berlin was surrounded. Communications were breaking down. Command chains collapsed. The treatment of captured officers during this period mattered. It influenced how remaining German units chose to surrender. Word spread quickly. American forces were strict but disciplined. Officers were processed, not abused. Prisoners were guarded, not attacked. That reputation saved lives. In several locations, German commanders surrendered entire units rather than fight hopeless battles. They believed they would be treated fairly. That belief did not come from propaganda. It came from actions like Patton's. After the official surrender on May 8, 1945, the role of captured German generals changed again. They became sources of knowledge about rebuilding order. They provided insights into regional command networks, infrastructure, and logistics. Some even helped locate hidden weapons and supplies. Patton's earlier decision now made sense to more people. Protecting a captured general was not weakness, it was strategy. There was another layer, one rarely discussed openly. Patton believed that future wars were possible. He thought alliances could shift. Knowledge of the German military system could become valuable again. Maintaining professional respect created channels that might matter later. Many historians later pointed to this moment as an example of Patton's complexity. He was aggressive in battle, relentless in pursuit, but he was also disciplined, thoughtful, and deeply influenced by military tradition. The story of the protected German general spread slowly after the war. Veterans remembered it. Intelligence officers discussed it. Historians examined it. It revealed something important. War is not only about destruction, it is also about control, about decisions made in moments of victory that shape what comes next. Patton did not protect the general out of friendship. He did it because he believed in order, in discipline, and in the professional code of soldiers. You can almost feel the silence of that moment when the decision was made. Outside, artillery still echoed. Inside, a single order changed the fate of a defeated commander. No shouting, no celebration, just a decision. Protect him. And that decision showed what kind of leader Patton truly was. Not just a man of tanks and attacks, but a man who believed that how you end a war matters as much as how you fight it. But there were even deeper layers behind this choice, and they came from the reality Patton saw on the ground every day. By March and April 1945, Germany was collapsing in slow motion. Entire battalions were surrendering without orders. Communication lines were broken, rail networks were destroyed, supply depots were empty. The German army still had experienced officers, but fewer and fewer soldiers willing to continue a lost fight. Patton understood this collapse better than most. His armored units were advancing sometimes 50 to 80 kilometers in a single day. Resistance would suddenly appear, then vanish. Villages would be defended fiercely, then abandoned by morning. It was not a normal front anymore. It was a system falling apart. In this environment, captured generals became key pieces of information. They knew which units were still organized. They knew which roads were mined. They knew where remaining artillery positions might fire from. Treating them with respect was not just a moral decision, it was a tactical one. Reports from intelligence officers began to confirm this. German commanders, who were treated professionally, were more willing to explain how their units had been deployed. They described shortages. They admitted confusion. They revealed which commanders had already planned surrender but had not yet made contact with American lines. These conversations saved time, and time saved lives. On April 21, 1945, near Nuremberg, American forces captured several staff officers who had worked under a senior German general. They were exhausted, underfed, and disoriented. Interrogators expected resistance. Instead, they spoke openly. They described how command structures were failing. They explained that many officers simply wanted the war to end before more cities were destroyed. The pattern became clear. Respect created cooperation. Cooperation accelerated surrender. Patton saw this and reinforced his position. Orders were repeated through his command. Senior prisoners were to be guarded carefully, treated firmly, but never humiliated. No unnecessary violence, no revenge, professional conduct only. This was not always easy to enforce. American troops had seen concentration camps. They had fought through brutal resistance in France, Belgium, and Germany. Anger was real. Loss was real. But discipline remained. Officers reminded their men that the war was almost over. The objective now was control, not destruction. You can almost feel the atmosphere in those final weeks. Roads crowded with refugees, horses pulling broken wagons, burned vehicles left where they stopped, soldiers from both sides moving carefully, unsure where the next shot might come from. And somewhere in that confusion, a captured general sitting quietly under guard, alive because one commander believed the war should end with order. The psychological effect was powerful. German officers began to understand that surrender did not mean immediate death. They could hand over command, protect their men, and still be treated as soldiers. That realization traveled faster than any official announcement. It moved through word of mouth, through prisoners, through quiet signals sent across lines. In some cases, entire units surrendered after hearing how captured officers were treated. Patton's approach created a chain reaction, and yet he never softened his military stance. His armies continued to advance. Artillery continued firing when necessary. Resistance was crushed quickly. But once a soldier surrendered, the treatment changed instantly. That contrast defined his leadership. On one side, relentless attack. On the other, strict discipline after victory. The captured German general at the center of this story later became a living example of that philosophy. He was questioned repeatedly, but always under controlled conditions. He provided maps, command insights, and explanations about the final defensive lines in southern Germany. The information helped American planners move faster and avoid unnecessary engagements. By the first week of May, the war in Europe was essentially finished. German forces were surrendering across multiple fronts. Radio transmissions shifted from command orders to ceasefire instructions. Inside one American command post, the captured general reportedly sat near a window, watching vehicles move past. He had commanded thousands of men. He had watched campaigns rise and fall. Now he was simply waiting. Patton's officers kept him under guard, but the atmosphere had changed. The urgency was gone. The war was ending. And in those quiet hours, the meaning of Patton's decision became clearer. Protecting a defeated general was not about sympathy. It was about how a professional army closes a chapter of history. Because once the guns stopped, the world would remember not just who won, but how they won. Patton understood that from the beginning.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.